Miami hasn't always been so carefree. For 13 days in October of 1962, Miami had a front row seat at one of the most dramatic standoffs in American history, known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. This was the closest America and the Soviet Union came to a nuclear war in what is known as the Cold War.
My name is Dr. Paul George. I'm a professor of history here at Miami-Dade College, Miami. The Bay of Pigs invasion, which took place between April 17th and April 21st, 1961, for Miamians was a very emotional time. The hope that we could overthrow Castro and that so many people who yearned for the homeland could go back there.
During communist dictator Fidel Castro's takeover of Cuba, only a few hundred miles away, thousands of Cubans were exiled to the safety of American shores. This is how Miami got its first major dose of Latin culture. An attempt was made by President John F. Kennedy along with a rebel Cuban force to overthrow the Castro regime. This was known as the Bay of Pigs invasion. It failed horribly.
This torch here, which burns eternally, honors 108 men who lost their lives in the Bay of Pigs invasion, the unsuccessful attempt in April of '61 to overthrow Fidel Castro.
And the result of which was the Soviet Union deal with Castro to place nuclear missiles just 90 miles from the Florida Keys. Miamians freaked.
There is a limit to what the United States and self-respect can endure. That limit has now been reached.
And then when Castro crushed this invasion force, it was a time of great sorrow. Over 1,000 men were taken prisoners, so there was that great concern on the part of families and friends. We were nearest among big cities in America to these offensive missiles that had been set up in Cuba by the Soviet Union in collaboration with Cuba to perhaps attack the United States. So there was a lot of fear in this community at that time. People flocked to churches. People came close together. There was an acceleration in the aftermath of that of building bomb shelters in Miami. People went to stores and just took everything in terms of food they could from the shelf, not knowing how long they'd be hunkering down.
President Kennedy ordered a naval blockade of Cuba and thus began the deadliest game of chicken in the history of mankind. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Khrushchev eventually worked out a deal in secret. Khrushchev removed his missiles and the U.S. promised to never again attempt to invade Cuba.